Trust began to grow like a fragile flower in the dark. As they slipped away into the night, every sound seemed louder. The crunch of dry leaves, the distant howl of wild creatures. Shadows moved around them, and every step was a test of their courage. The priest's guards were close behind. The human used his sharp senses to guide the group through hidden paths. Lyra's strange power gave faint light, helping them see but not enough to reveal their location. Fear tried to creep in, but the human's steady voice kept them strong. "We are not alone," he said. "Together, we can face what comes." Hours passed like moments as they pushed forward. The group avoided traps and dangers hidden in the wilderness. Their bond grew stronger with each challenge. But deep inside, the human knew this escape was only the beginning. The priests would never give up. They would hunt Lyra across the stars if they had to. Still, under the cold moonlight, hope shone brighter than ever. They were free, for now. And that freedom was worth every risk. The sun rose high and burned fiercely as the human, Lyra, and their small group raced across the endless desert. The golden sands stretched far in every direction, offering no shelter, no rest. Behind them, the priests' hunters closed in fast, their ships cutting through the sky like shadows of death. Lyra's legs ached, and her breath came in short gasps, but she refused to stop. The human walked beside her, steady and strong, carrying what little supplies they had. He knew the desert was a test, one that would break those who were not ready. The hunters were relentless. They moved with cold precision, sending out drones, and using strange devices to track their prey. Every step the group took was watched, every breath counted. The human's mind raced, searching for a way to lose their pursuers in the vast wasteland. At one point, the desert opened into a narrow canyon. The human saw a chance. "This way," he said urgently, leading Lyra and the others into the rocky walls. The hunters might not follow easily here. The heat pressed down, but the shadows of the canyon gave a small relief. Still, the danger was far from over. The human knew the priest's forces were cunning and cruel. They would not stop until they had Lyra back in chains. As they moved carefully through the rocky paths, Lyra's strange power pulsed softly. It gave her strength, but it also warned her of danger nearby. The human noticed her pause, eyes sharp, and he trusted her instincts. Suddenly, the sound of engines roared behind them. The hunters had found the canyon too. The group broke into a desperate run, their hearts pounding louder than the machines, chasing them. Exhausted but determined, the human pushed Lyra forward. "Keep going, we're almost safe." But safety was still far away. The desert tested their will, their courage, and their hope. Every step was a fight for survival, and the chase was far from over. Just when the desert seemed endless and hope was slipping away, unexpected help arrived. From the rocky edges of the canyon, figures emerged, aliens who had long suffered under the priest's cruel rule. These were warriors and outcasts who had been waiting for a chance to fight back. At first, the human and Lyra were cautious. Trust was hard to give when betrayal was so common. But the aliens showed no fear. They carried weapons forged from old technology and wore armor made from scavenged parts. Their eyes burned with determination. "We have seen what the priests do," one leader said. "Your fight is our fight." Together they formed a new alliance. The human taught the aliens about tactics and teamwork, while Lyra shared what she knew of her power. The group trained quickly, preparing for the battles ahead. Word spread among the villages and settlements. More joined the cause, each bringing their own skills and hopes. The priest's control began to weaken as fear turned into rebellion. But the priests did not stay silent. They sent stronger forces and dark creatures to crush the rising resistance. The human and Lyra knew that the coming fight would be dangerous and could change everything. The bond between the human and the alien girl grew deeper. He saw her not just as a symbol but as a brave leader. She found strength in him, a partner who would stand by her side no matter what. Together with their new allies, they prepared to face the priests in a battle for freedom and justice. The galaxy held its breath. A storm was coming, and it would not be easy to stop. The sun was just beginning to rise, casting long shadows over the village that had once been silent under the priest's cruel rule. Now it was alive with the sounds of preparation. The air was thick with determination and the heavy weight of what was to come. The final battle was near, and everyone knew that this fight would decide the fate of their world. Lyra stood at the center of the gathered group, her eyes steady and calm despite the fear bubbling inside her. The girl who had once been forced to the ground by the priests had grown into a symbol of hope. Her power, once hidden and feared, now shone like a beacon for all who wanted freedom. Beside her stood the human, her protector and friend, who had risked everything to help her escape and fight back. The priests' forces were strong. They controlled armies of soldiers and dark magic users who believed their rule was absolute. But the villagers, the new allies, and the human had something the priests did not. They had hope, courage, and a reason to fight for a better future. Lyra took a deep breath. She thought of all she had lost, all the pain she had endured. But she also thought of the smiles that had returned to the faces of the people around her. This was their chance to take back what was stolen. The chains of fear were broken, and now it was time to break the chains of control. The human moved beside, her placing a steady hand on her shoulder. "We are ready," he said softly. "No matter what comes, we face it together." As the sun climbed higher, the sound of marching grew louder. The priest's army approached, dark and menacing, filling the horizon with a wall of armor and weapons. Their leader, the high priest, rode at the front, his eyes cold and filled with hatred. He saw Lyra and the human standing tall and knew this battle would be the most difficult he had ever faced. The two sides met on the edge of the village. For a moment, silence fell, a quiet before the storm. Then, with a roar, the battle began. The villagers and their allies fought with a fierce determination. They were not trained soldiers, but their hearts burned with the desire for freedom. The human used his knowledge of tactics guiding their movements, while Lyra's power healed the wounded and gave strength to the weak. The priests called upon dark magic, sending shadows to strike at the rebels, but Lyra's light pushed back, the darkness creating a shield that protected her friends. The ground shook as the battle raged on, dust rising and filling the air. Amid the chaos, the human found himself face to face with the high priest. The man's power was strong, but the human's will was stronger. With every strike, he fought not just for himself, but for Lyra and the village that believed in him. Lyra moved through the battlefield, her presence inspiring those who fought beside her. She found the courage she never knew she had, and with every enemy she faced, her power grew. The battle was long and hard. Many were hurt, and some fell, but the rebels did not give up. Slowly, the priest's forces began to break. Their dark magic weakened in the face of hope and unity. Finally, the high priest found himself surrounded. His eyes flashed with anger as he realized his time was ending. With one last attempt, he unleashed a powerful spell, but Lyra stepped forward, her light stronger than ever. She absorbed the spell and sent it back, breaking his power forever. The priest's army fell silent. Their leader was defeated. The village was free. Cheers rose from the villagers, tears of joy mixed with exhaustion. The human and Lyra stood together, their bond stronger than ever. They had faced impossible odds and won. The days that followed were filled with rebuilding and healing. The people came together, no longer ruled by fear but guided by hope. Lyra's power became a gift for all, bringing peace and growth to the land. The human decided to stay, becoming part of the village that had once been a stranger's refuge. Together, they looked to the future, a future where humans and aliens stood side by side, free and united. The story of the alien girl and the brave human had become a legend, a reminder that even in the darkest times, courage and hope could light the way. And as the sun set on a new dawn, the village knew that their fight was over, but their journey was just beginning. The hot sun burned over the quiet alien village. Dust rose with every step of the priests. They were tall, wearing dark robes that covered their faces. In the middle of the village square, a young alien girl named Lyra was on the ground. Her hands were tied and her eyes were full of fear. The priests forced her down hard, shouting words no one else dared to speak. The people of the village watched quietly. Some looked away, afraid to see. Others whispered, but no one dared to stop. The priests. The priests had ruled this village for many years. They said they had the power to protect the people, but really they only wanted control. Lyra was different from the others. She had a secret power inside her, one that could change everything. The priests knew this and wanted to stop her before she could use it. That was why they brought her here, to punish her and to show the village what happens to those who do not obey. The village was silent except for the priests' voices. Lyra tried to stand, but the priests pushed her back down. Her small body shook, but she did not cry. She looked at the faces around her, hoping for help, but no one moved. The fear was stronger than courage. Suddenly, from the edge of the village, a man stepped forward. He was tall and wore simple clothes unlike the priest's robes. His skin was pale, and his eyes were clear and full of determination. The villagers whispered among themselves. Humans were rare in this part of the galaxy. No one knew why he came, or what he wanted. The man walked calmly toward the priests. He did not look afraid. The priests stopped and turned to face him. One of them sneered, "You human, this is not your place. Leave now, or you will be forced to leave." The man smiled slightly but did not stop. "I am here for the girl." "She does not deserve this," the priest laughed loudly. "She is a traitor. She threatens us all. You cannot save her." The man's voice grew stronger. "She is not a threat. She is a child and she deserves to be free." The priests raised their hands, calling on their dark powers. The air around them grew cold and heavy. The villagers held their breath. The human man did not move back. Instead, he took a step forward, closer to the girl. Lyra looked up at him. For the first time, her eyes showed hope. She whispered, "Please help me." The man reached out and gently touched her hand. The chains around her wrist began to glow faintly. The priest shouted in anger and tried to stop him, but the man held his ground. He was not just a human. He was someone with a mission. The priest started to move toward him, but the man raised his hand. A strange light surrounded him, bright and warm. The priest stepped back, surprised and afraid. The villagers began to murmur. They had never seen a human with such power. Slowly, some of them stepped closer to the man and the girl. The priests looked around and saw that their control was slipping. One priest shouted, "You cannot stop the will of the gods." The man shook his head. The gods do not want pain and fear. They want peace. Lyra pulled at her chains and the glowing grew stronger. The man knelt beside her and whispered, "Hold on. I will not let them hurt you." The priests grew angry and moved again, but the man stood between them and Lyra. His voice was calm but firm. "Leave her alone." Suddenly a loud noise echoed through the village. It was the sound of footsteps, many footsteps. More humans appeared at the edge of the village, armed and ready. The priests looked shocked. The man smiled. "You are not alone anymore." The villagers' faces changed. Fear began to turn into hope. The priests realized their time was ending. Lyra's eyes shone bright as the chains around her wrist broke with a soft snap. She stood up slowly, her legs weak but steady. The human man helped her up. Together, they faced the priests. The priests raised their hands for one last attack, but the humans raised their weapons. The priests knew they were outnumbered. The village held its breath as the first battle for freedom began. Lyra looked at the human man. She did not know his name yet, but she knew she could trust him. The chains that had held her down were gone, but the fight for her future was only just starting. The sun set slowly behind the hills, casting long shadows over the village. The quiet was broken by the sounds of struggle and hope. The story of the alien girl and the brave human had begun, and no one could guess how far it would go. The first step had been taken. The chains had fallen. Freedom was near, but danger was still close behind. The village watched in silence, waiting to see what would happen next. The priests had never faced a challenge like this before. Their power, once absolute, now seemed fragile. The human who had freed Lyra stood tall and calm, his eyes burning with quiet strength. The villagers whispered among themselves, many feeling a strange new hope stirring in their hearts. The priests sneered, trying to hide their fear. "You think one human can change everything?" their leader hissed. "You do not understand our ways or the power we hold." But the human only smiled. "I understand more than you think. Your power comes from fear, but fear cannot hold people forever." Lyra stood beside the human, her eyes brighter than before. She was still weak from captivity, but she felt stronger because of him. For the first time, she believed freedom was possible. The human spoke to the villagers. "You don't have to live under their rule anymore. You are stronger than you know. Together, we can end this." Some villagers nodded, their faces hardening with determination. Others still looked, scared, unsure if it was safe to trust this stranger. The priests gathered quickly, whispering spells and making threats. They sent out messengers to call for reinforcements. They could not let this human ruin everything they had built. The human knew time was short. He began to teach the villagers simple ways to defend themselves. He showed them how courage could turn into strength, how fear could be broken. Lyra listened carefully. She learned that her power was not just a threat to the priests. It was a gift to her people. She had to use it to protect them. At night, the village was tense and quiet. The priests planned their next move, but the villagers stayed awake, ready to fight for their freedom. The human and Lyra grew closer. He promised her safety and told her she was not alone. She smiled, feeling trust for the first time in her life. The priest sent soldiers to capture Lyra again, but this time the villagers fought back. They stood beside the human and protected her. The battle was fierce, but the human's courage inspired the villagers. They found strength they didn't know they had. In the end, the priests were pushed back. Their hold on the village was broken. But the war was not over. The human and the alien girl knew that more challenges were coming. The priests would not give up easily. Yet, the first victory had been won, and the hope for a better future was stronger than ever. The quiet after the battle was brief. The village still trembled with fear and hope, but a new challenge was rising. The human learned the true reason the priests wanted Lyra captured. She held a secret that could change the fate of the whole galaxy. Lyra was not an ordinary girl. Inside her was a rare power, passed down from ancient ancestors. This power could heal broken worlds, but it could also destroy those who tried to misuse it. The priests feared her because they wanted to keep their control, no matter the cost. The human listened carefully as Lyra shared her story. She had hidden her gift for years, afraid of what the priests would do if they found out. Now, with him by her side, she felt a small spark of courage. But the danger was real. The priests were gathering forces far beyond the village. They sent spies and dark messengers to capture Lyra again, and they would not stop until she was theirs. They know. Human knew he had to protect her, but he was new to this world. He did not understand all the dangers or the secrets behind Lyra's power. Yet he promised to stand with her, no matter what. Together, they planned their next move. The human began to learn about the ancient ways and the hidden forces in the galaxy. Lyra's power was a key to freedom, but only if they could keep it safe. The priests tightened their grip on nearby villages, warning others not to help Lyra. Fear grew like a shadow and allies were hard to find. Still, some brave souls came forward. They believed in Lyra and the human. These new friends risked everything to join the fight. The human felt a deep responsibility. He was not just a stranger anymore. He was a protector, a leader, and Lyra's trust gave him strength. But the road ahead was dangerous and full of unknown threats. Every step they took could lead them closer to freedom or to ruin. The secret of the alien girl was no longer hidden, and the galaxy was about to change forever. Night wrapped the village in a thick, silent blanket. The stars shone faintly. Above but below, tension filled the air like electricity. The human and Lyra knew they could not stay. The priest's spies were everywhere, watching and waiting for the right moment to strike. They needed to escape, but it would not be easy. The village was surrounded by harsh lands, twisting forests and deep ravines that held dangers of their own. The human studied the maps and spoke quietly with Lyra. "We must move under the cover of darkness. Every second counts." Lyra's heart pounded with fear and hope. She had never left the village before. Now she was about to take a risky journey with a stranger who had become her only friend and protector. The villagers who believed in their cause gathered quietly, offering what little help they could. Food, water, and simple weapons were passed into their hands. The human taught them how to move silently and avoid danger.